Hello, attorney Carlos Colombo from Colombo and Hurd Immigration. And today we have a special guest, Rachel, one of our very own attorneys, who's going to be discussing the three mistakes to avoid when you're presenting your EB-2 National Interest Waiver application in 2025. Rachel, welcome.
Hi, Carlos.
All right, so let's get right into this really exciting topic because everybody always wants to know how to avoid making mistakes, especially when you're applying to something as important as a green card via the EB-2 National Interest Waiver. Let's remind a little bit the folks what is an EB-2 NIW application. Rachel, if you can sort of give us a brief intro, because we have videos that get into the actual details of an EB-2, but what is an EB-2 NIW?
An EB-2 NIW, NIW stands for National Interest Waiver. This is a classification where we're basically waiving away the requirement of the job offer that EB-2s usually have because your work is in the national interest.
Exactly. And it's a way for self-petitioners because you don't need that sponsoring company to apply directly to a green card, which gives you the freedom, the flexibility of basically dictating your own future rather than relying on a company that is controlling your immigration process. That's one of the reasons why we've seen such an increase in the number of applicants. We've also seen an increase in the interest from applicants in the EB-2 NIW process because it has become very burdensome to go through a petitioning company. Not only are you relying on them to pay for that process and control the application itself, but also a lot of companies may not be willing to sponsoring someone, especially if they're abroad and they don't really know the employees. So the EB-2 NIW has sort of become the best option for high-skilled immigrants, folks that have a college degree as a minimum and 5 years of experience, or a master's or a PhD that have some kind of advanced studies. It has really become the best option to immigrate to the United States if you can prove that what you're coming to do is in the national interest. So because of that interest, the increase in applicants and the interest in the NIW, we have also seen a lot of folks that either are doing it on their own, perhaps trying to see YouTube videos and YouTube information or information on the internet and maybe file on their own, and they don't really understand what immigration wants to see. Or it could be just folks that it could be attorneys, or sometimes even worse, non-attorneys, agents that really don't have the experience in preparing NIW cases. So immigration, of course, is going to try to tackle those issues, and sometimes they may issue requests for evidence or question some common mistakes. So let's get into what those three most common mistakes that we see, Rachel, what those are.
Yeah, of course. One mistake we see a lot is when people are talking about the national interest or the national importance of their work, they'll talk a little too generally. They'll think, well, I'm a mechanical engineer, and mechanical engineers are important to the United States, and not really go into any specifics. I think sometimes people are intimidated thinking, well, I just do my job, I don't do anything special. So they want to talk more broadly. And in reality, when we're able to talk to clients and dig in a little bit, you learn specifically, oh, you might have developed this methodology that improved processes, that impacted the field. There's a lot of different things we can do when we actually talk to clients to learn, here's a national interest in your specific work, and avoid that generality of just saying, well, this field is important to the United States.
Right. What they want to see, what the officer that is looking at your case wants to see is not your general profession, right? Even if there's a shortage in your profession, that by itself is not going to be enough to prove that what you're doing or you may be doing in the U.S. could be of national interest, even if we need you. So, for example, we clearly need doctors. We clearly need air traffic controllers with all the craziness we've seen in the skies lately. We need nurses. We need different types of professionals in the U.S. There's no doubt, but that in and of itself is not enough. is what you as the individual professional are coming to do that could be of national interest. And so that distinction between a general profession and what you're coming to do as an individual is very important, as Rachel points out, because that's where the officer, what the officer wants to see is that you are going to have a potential positive impact in the U.S. So mistake number one, avoid those general statements when you're talking about national interest. Mistake number two, Rachel.
So mistake number two is, even once you've kind of determined what it is that you're going to do in the United States, you have to have some sort of a plan. I like to say, it's not just the officer doesn't want to see that you have a dream. They want to know what you're going to do specifically to accomplish the dream. Doesn't mean you have to get into, a full business plan like you might for other visa types, but rather you have to show what real actionable steps that you'll take to achieve this, that you've actually put thought into this and that you have a plan in order to do so.
Yeah, and that people get quite lost with this because and this is one of the challenges sometimes, because a lot of clients may not be in the United States, right? They're not here doing what they say they're going to be doing down the road as part of their application. So it's a future plan a lot of the times. It's not something being done right now as we speak. And so the officer at immigration wants to get some evidence to show that what you're telling them is most likely to happen. It's not a 100% certainty, because nothing in life is certain except for death and taxes. But you have to show that most likely you will be doing these things. You are well positioned to do those things, and that's a term that is used in the actual decisions that we see from USCIS. You're positioned to be able to carry out this endeavor. It does not necessarily need a business plan, but you may need other types of evidence, or at least a plan that is laid out that makes sense to the officer, because that's another thing, right? These are applications that are filed in writing. This is not Rachel, even though she's a great at oral advocacy, she's not going to be going in front of an officer or a judge. She's going to be helping you prepare the packet that is all in writing. And so we have the advantage that we can work as a team, and Rachel and the rest of the team will be helping you put together those thoughts. That the thought comes from you, the idea comes from you as the client. We know how to put it together the way that immigration likes. But it's that team effort that makes a difference in those little details as to how you can explain to the officer that you intend to do these things in the United States, that you've taken some positive steps to make sure that that can be successful down the road. Did I get that right, Rachel?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. It's a balance, and like you said, it's a collaboration with the client. They give us the idea, we help develop it.
All right. So, sometimes folks always try to fast forward through these YouTube videos because they want to see sort of the last thing. But one thing to keep in mind with anything relating to immigration is that if there are certain requirements, you have to meet most of the time all of those, right? In this case, you have to meet that you are an advanced degree professional, that you're coming to do something that could be in the national interest, that you're well positioned. But mistake number three, Rachel, what's mistake number three?
So the mistake number three I've been noticing, it also relates to being well positioned, and I call it people holding back on evidence of their accomplishments. What I mean by this is people sometimes think, I don't have patents, I haven't published dozens of scholarly papers, I don't really have anything to give you other than, maybe here are my ideas and my degree. And in reality, once we dig in a little bit, we see they have accomplishments and recognitions and what we call a record of success and similar or related efforts to what they're proposing. And we can uncover some really good evidence. But I think sometimes people will think, well, no one's going to care about this because it's not super impressive. But in reality, there's a lot of different evidence we can provide to support a petition.
That's a great point, and actually, that's something that I highlight quite a bit to clients. EB-2 NIW is not an EB-1A where you need to show that you are of extraordinary ability, right? That's reserved for the very, very top people around the world. EB-2 National Interest Waiver is advanced degree professionals, high-skilled immigrants. You don't need to get to that level. And a lot of folks also start doing some research on the internet and believe that only if they're doing research or they have found a cure for cancer or they have 80 articles published, peer-reviewed, they're going to qualify, and that's not the case either. It's sometimes difficult to sell yourself, right? That's something that some folks are really good at, but most folks actually are not, especially if you've been focused on developing your career and growing as a professional. You may not have sat down and done a CV, a resume that has all those accomplishments, how you've helped increase sales in your company, or how you came up with a novel way to attract clients. Whatever that may be, those accomplishments are something that could help you in your EB-2 NIW application. So you don't need to be at that level of the EB-1A. What we want to know, we need information from you. And sometimes it's good to ask your spouse or ask people that know you if they can remember of certain things that you may not even remember that you've done that are actually accomplishments that could help us. All we need is that information from you. And then talented attorneys at our firm like Rachel, who handle hundreds and hundreds of cases, will guide you through that process. But I think that's a great point to close on, Rachel, is that the evidence that you gather is very important because that case is presented in writing, and you need to sell yourself. If you don't, then the officer may say you're just you're not getting to that threshold that we need to approve your case. All right. Well, Rachel, I don't know if you have any final thoughts. I mean, we went through the three biggest mistakes that we're seeing in 2025 with NIWs. I don't know if you have any final thoughts on NIWs for 2025 that you want to share.
I think a lot of people are concerned about the future of NIWs in 2025, but from my perspective, and I'm sure as you've been saying, Carlos, is we're still going strong in this type of law. We still are having several successful cases and the national interest still exists. So I think we are able to help people achieve their dreams and achieve this type of green card even in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the new administration, there's always, especially at the beginning, we're only 60 or so days into the new second Trump administration. There's usually, some folks that are a little bit scared because they don't know and they hear a lot of information on the news. What we can tell you, because this is what we do every single day, is that we continue to see those approvals coming in. And the Trump administration has been fairly clear that they want to attract immigrants based on merit primarily. And the EB-2 NIW is the definition of a merit-based green card. It doesn't get any more merit than the EB-2 NIW. EB-1A comes pretty close too. But that's the type of immigration that not only Trump, but the folks in his administration have repeatedly said, Marco Rubio, Elon Musk, they have said that they want to incentivize the brightest and the best to come to the United States, to focus on areas such as energy, AI, emerging technologies, manufacturing in the U.S., all those areas that are important to this administration. So what we're seeing is a continued interest in applying for the EB-2 NIW. We don't see that diminishing. So like I always say to people, waiting is usually not a good idea because the demand keeps growing and you don't want to be in a huge wait line. There's always going to be some wait line because demand is high to the US, but um, we're here to help you through that process. There's a link below where you can send us your profile and we can do a free evaluation. Rachel, like always, it was a pleasure discussing the 3 mistakes that folks do in NIWs in 2025. And thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Carlos.